good morning to you. Got an early edition here because, the early bird gets the worm or something like that, or either the early to rise or whatever. But anyway, if you grew up...
Hopefully big worms.
Yeah. If you grew up in an agrarian environment, you got to be out of bed early. I mean, that was me. I was taking in that tobacco, man. We get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, but the old school way of getting tobacco out of a barn so you could put green tobacco in the barn, get breakfast, come back, hit that field around 6 o'clock or something like that, and that dew would be cold on you. But by mid-morning, man, your behind be burning up. So but that's the farm life. Anyway, this morning our guest is Jeff Thompson from Bell Seed Store. Want to get him in to talk to you a little bit about what's going on with your plants. You need to be reminded of some stuff, and you need to be informed of some stuff. Good morning, Jeff.
Without a doubt, good morning. Good to be here.
Excellent. Well, look, man, the drought is affecting some things too. But there are some plants.
Things?
Yeah, that's true. You got to point
a little bit of everything.
Right. But there are some plants that actually can survive better than other plants.
Sure there are. The problem is you come into vegetables, and there's very little vegetables that can really survive a drought like we've been having. So we've been having a hard time with vegetables this year. Nobody's come back and said they've had a stellar garden just because you can water all you want. And I love PWC. They provide good service. They provide good water. But there ain't nothing like God's water.
Yeah, I have a friend, actually he's a church member. He has a blueberry farm.
Yep.
And we were talking about it. He said, man, because he has his own irrigation system. He can irrigate that bad boy, water coming out of the ground. It's not like that water falling out of the sky. It's day and night difference.
Oh, yeah, there's a huge difference. And part of what's really hurt us this year is not only the drought, but, I mean, this morning it's cool out there. I about needed to go back and put a jacket on. When you're having these 50-degree nights and low 60s at night, that really throws your plants into chaos, throws your grass into chaos. Because every day I've got at least a minimum of 10 pictures that people are bringing me. Look at my grass. Look what's happening with my grass. How can I get that green back into my grass? And I keep telling them, I'd love to sell you something, but the best thing you can do is get on your knees and pray for rain and regular warm temperature. Because like centipede grass, which is 80% of what's in Cumberland County, if you don't have regular warm temperatures, your grass is not going to respond like it's supposed to. We went back in February, March, and had some warm spurts. All your grass started wanting to green up, and then all of a sudden we go right back into cold again, and had some freezing going on in April. And that's terrible for your plants, because your plants like regular. They're like us. They don't want a lot of switching. They don't like a lot of up and down, and so it really throws them into chaos. Your grass doesn't know if it's supposed to be waking up, if it's supposed to be going dormant. And centipede, the one bad thing about centipede grass is, if you have severe cold weather, you will come back the next spring and you'll just have dead spots that show up. And a lot of people want to start throwing fungicides and insecticides at it, and that may not be the problem. Centipede roots are just tender, and so if you get a lot of adverse cold temperatures on them, sometimes it just kills out part of your root system, and so it's just called winter dieback. It's kind of a catch-all term to explain what happens. And so a lot of times you got no other choice but to go in there and just cut out a spot, put some sod in there, put some seed in there, and kind of start from scratch in those areas.
So now people need to be careful also with fertilizing. If you don't have rain,
that's right.
It's not going to be water. Let's talk a little bit about that. Because I got my good friends like Reverend Carl producing us today, because then his wife is going to give him orders what to do.
Of course.
So I want her to be listening so she could tell him what to do.
And her name is what, Carl? Janet. All right, Janet, this one's especially for you. Don't be rushing him to go out there and throw fertilizer down.
Tell Carl what to do. Right.
That ain't necessarily what you need to be doing. And I got people coming in with, light-colored grass or dead-looking grass.
Right.
And that's the first thing everybody wants to do is throw fertilizer to it. And the one thing you really need to understand about centipede grass is it doesn't like a lot of fertilizer. It doesn't like high nitrogen. And you've got the 3 numbers on the front of your bag of fertilizer, 10, 10, 10, 8, 4, 16, whatever kind of fertilizer. Those 3 numbers, that first number is your nitrogen. And if you start throwing too much nitrogen on your grass and you don't water it in, you're going to burn some stuff up. And so you have to be very careful about that. And centipede, the centipede fertilizer that we sell is an 8, 4, 16. Okay, it doesn't have a lot of nitrogen, but that's the way centipede likes it. That last number is your root development, and that's what you really want to hit up on your centipede grass. But if you go out there, I tell people all the time, how much do you eat at 3 o'clock in the morning? Not very much.
Right.
Your grass, when it's dormant, it's nighttime. So it's asleep. You're not going to be able to force food into your grass. You've got to wait until your grass wakes up and is ready to take up nutrients and take up the water and take up all the stuff it needs to turn green. And so if you put your fertilizer out too early, you're just shooting yourself in the rear end because it's really not going to do you any good. Now, if you got more money than you need and you just want to start giving away money, sure, buy it early, go ahead and put it out early, but that's a bad thing for your grass. So if you're a centipede, you want to kind of slow down. Now is a good time to fertilize because while we are still getting some cool nights, your grass is finally greened up. So we're above, I always say 80%. If you're 80% green, go ahead and start throwing the fertilizer to it. Well, we are beyond that now, and so that's a good thing because we have had enough warm weather for it to wake up. But everything you read tells you not to fertilize your centipede until June. So now is a great time to fertilize because the reasoning, the horticultural reasoning behind that is that your grass is fully awake. Every bit of fertilizer you put out is going to get taken up by that grass, and it's going to start developing a better lawn for you. So now is a great time to fertilize if you have not. If you fertilized early, I don't necessarily want you to go out and fertilize again because too much fertilizer, especially on centipede, is a bad thing. Now, you turn around and you look at Bermuda grass. If you've got Bermuda or zoysia grass, it's a much different grass. It loves nitrogen, so you can put a high nitrogen fertilizer on there. And technically, if you're growing Bermuda and zoysia, you need to fertilize that 5 times through the growing season.
Wow! So
that's about every 5 to 6 weeks. You need to be throwing fertilizer to it. Now, if you did that to centipede, by the end of the summer, it's going to start looking bad because you've over-fertilized. But Bermuda and zoysia, go crazy. Put the fertilizer to it because it loves it, and that's what it wants. That's what it needs. You go out to these golf courses, and you see all these beautiful fairways, and I mean, they are really pumping the fertilizer to them to keep them healthy, keep them vigorous, and that's what the Bermuda and the zoysia really likes.
Okay, wow. Well, look, Janet, and just tell Carl those are not lottery numbers.
That's right.
On the bags. Explain that to him, Janet.
If you do the right one, it could win you the grass lottery. I don't know.
That's true, but
something like that.
Janet, explain that to Carl.
That's right.
Those are not lottery numbers. Those numbers mean they mean something.
Janet, before I leave, I'm going to pull Carl into the corner, and we're going to get on our knees, and we're going to pray for some divine guidance and how to put out your fertilizer so he don't mess it up. Can't ever hurt.
So, so I remember you told me, you said the weeds come up first before the grass.
Yeah, typically.
Yeah, right.
Because you got winter weeds and summer weeds. Your winter weeds really put on a push in late February, early March.
Right.
Because as soon as you get your first couple of warm days, they are struggling to make seed. The goal of every plant's life is to produce seed.
Right.
No different from your vegetables to your grass to your shrubs to your trees. All of them. That is keyed into their DNA is to produce seed to continue the species. Okay, so you get those winter weeds, they know that hot weather is coming. They don't survive during the hot weather, so March, they're struggling hard to put out everything they can to produce seed to continue on. So that's when you got to start battling the weeds early in the season. Problem with that is the temperatures are so low, most of your chemicals don't work really well to control those weeds. So early spring, it's always a battle trying to find the right mix and the right temperatures and the right timing to really optimize what you're going to do. But your pre-emergents are great because you can put those out. That will form a barrier to keep your weeds from growing before you ever see them. And so that's typically what you want to do in the early spring, mid to late February, early March, depending on the weather pattern. You can put your pre-emergent down, and that will prevent a lot of headaches from coming up on down the road. And then once you get into warm weather, you can spray for your weeds to kill them out while your grass is greening up. You just got to make sure you're hitting the right chemical because you don't want to damage your grass, but those weed killers will really work well to kill the weeds without hurting your grass. You just got to do it at the right time. You got to get the right product. And that's what we preach over and over again. We try our best to train our staff to make sure they know if somebody's coming in at this time of year, this is what they're going to need. If they got this kind of grass, this is what you're going to need. Because you can put the wrong stuff out and damage your grass just to, do as much harm as you are good. So you just got to be careful to use the right product at the right time.
Well, look, I give you guys credit. Every time I walk in, everybody know what they're talking about. But I won't name some of these major corporations, but I go in and they don't know. Well, I don't know, man. You know what I mean? I'm just, the only thing I can do is ring you up.
It's hard, and I tell my people all the time. I've got an associate's degree from Fayetteville Tech in horticulture. Okay. I've been in the horticultural world for, Lord, I've been at the store for 26 years, so another 10, 12 years before that with my own landscape company. So I've been involved in this for a long time. So it kind of comes natural to me. Things just kind of clicked. When I got in the classroom on that first plant science class, it was just amazing to me how interrelated so many different things are to make plants work, to make grass work, to make vegetables work. It's just, there's so many interrelated things that have got to go on. So I tell people whenever I do these garden club programs, I tell them all the time, if you don't believe in God, get into horticulture. Because right. You start looking at all the stuff that was set up. That's true. All that didn't happen by chance. And it's the same thing with the human body. There's so many things that go on within your body. You can't tell me that just was created, with no purpose, with no plan in place, And so there's just so many different things that are related. So all this comes naturally to me. I've got Renee, my garden, I call her my garden goddess. She's the one that's in charge of all the garden center area outside. She's a master gardener through our Cumberland County Cooperative Extension Service. I've got so many people on staff that love plants, that just love that kind of environment. And so we try and keep, continuously pass all that information down the chain so that everybody knows what they need to recommend to you. I tell people, we've been around since 1919. That's 107 years, and I value our reputation so highly because I don't want anybody to damage our reputation. I want you to be able to come in and get accurate information. I don't want to, start making stuff up and telling you, well, I think you need this, right? Maybe you can do this. No, that's not what we're about. I want to make sure and give you right information so that it's going to perform and it's going to give you the results that you want, because that's how we build customers, is if I share good information with you, it works for you, you're going to tell your friends. So largely what we do is word of mouth. You come in, you liked what happened, we gave you good product, you're going to tell your friends, so they're going to come in looking for it. And I get it every day. My friend told me to come down and ask you because you're the one who knows. Well, yep. That's a position I like to be in.
Well, look, that's what I like. Look, I come in, I remember, I forget how long ago back, decades that I came in, but I was impressed, and when I want the good knowledge stuff, that's what I do. I come trucking right to you because I know that you guys know what you're talking about, and and they and this is what they'll do, guys. They'll say, well, now you plant this in the sun, or it's going to be shaded. I mean, they got this whole thing worked out because some plants thrive better in direct sunlight, and some don't.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you got to know all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. You throw a gardenia out in full all-day sun, you're going to enjoy that gardenia for about 2 months because it's going to be dying out on you pretty soon because they can't take all that heat. But there's other stuff that'll take heat all day long. So you're right. You got to know your conditions, and it kills me sometimes that I get people out there and they want to, I'm redoing the front of my house. I need to know what kind of shrubs I need to put. Okay, well, how much sun do you get on the front of your house? Well, I don't know. It's okay. You need to go home, literally get your pad out and say at 10 o'clock, this is how much sun, 20% sun. At 11 o'clock, 30% sun. At 12 o'clock, 40% sun. You need to really evaluate that so that you can tell what you need to be planting. Same thing with your vegetables. A whole lot of people plant vegetables on the backside of their property where there's a lot of big trees, there's a lot of shade. Why isn't everything doing well? Well, you're in too much shade. You got to have more sun for your vegetables to really produce like you want them to. So you really need to take into account how much sunlight you're getting in those areas. It also makes a big difference if you've got a 3-acre plot, and you've got no trees in there and you got a lot of wind coming through there. The wind will affect your plants, especially this year with the cool nights and wind. I ran out of cucumbers I don't know how many times this year because everybody started planting them early. Well, cucumbers won't take cold nights. And especially if you got a wind going on, that's just going to burn them. You'll come out the next morning, they're laid over, they're no good, they turn to mush, and so they're planting them early, they're coming back and they're rebuying. And then they're planting them and it was still technically too early, and they're rebuying them. So I had everybody rebuying cucumbers, which wiped the stock out. And so I've run out several times just because, and not everybody planted them early. We thought we were in good time, and then Mother Nature threw a little curveball at us, and so all of a sudden, stuff just doesn't work out because a change in temperatures, a change in weather really has a great effect on that.
So those folk up there that are gardening now, the ones that, what can you start garden-wise in June?
Well, in June, I've still got tomatoes and peppers out there. We actually have, once all the commercial growers that we contract with have sold through everything they've got, we start planting our own. So we plant our own crop of squash and cucumbers to carry us on into the season. So we've still got some of those available. We've still got okra available. And the other part of it is got plenty of seed. I mean, if you've never been into the store, you walk in and there's a seed wall with 70, 80 different varieties of seed. I mean, every kind of vegetable seed practically that you could grow in this area. If you want to grow cucumbers, you can plant cucumbers from seed, and within a week, they're going to be up and growing. Same thing with squash, okra. All those are very dependable to come up, even in the hot weather. Like okra, we didn't have okra early in the season because okra won't take cool nights either. Okra loves heat. And I know there's a lot of okra lovers out there. I'm not in that fold because for some reason me and okra have never got along. But my wife loves okra, but okra loves hot weather. And so you put seed down, within 2 or 3 days, you're going to see those plants poking up out of the soil, and then you can grow your own okra without any problem. So, okra is certainly available to plant. Like I said, your tomatoes and peppers, they both like heat, so you can get them in the ground and then they'll start growing. And a lot of people will stage how they plant their tomatoes. They'll plant some tomatoes early, and then 2 or 3 weeks later they'll plant more, and then 2 or 3 weeks later they'll plant more. And so that way, once they start producing, you've got a line of tomatoes that are continuously ready. So you can go all the way through fall and still pulling good tomatoes. So it's never really too late. Yeah, you get into September, you don't want to think about planting a tomato. But here in June, you can certainly still plant tomatoes and peppers. You'll still get good production because it takes an average of 45 to 60 days to start harvesting. So that ain't bad. June, July, you get into late July, early August. Now all of a sudden you got tomatoes you can pull.
Okay, so now the veggies are out there, and like I said, we can continue doing that kind of thing. But what about people that have raised garden versus, in the ground, and they're trying to fight off nut grass and things like that?
Well, raised beds have just grown in popularity just tenfold over the last 5 years.
Right.
We sell a lot of those nursery pots. If you buy a tree, you got those big black pots they come in. Well, we sell a lot of those nursery pots in the large sizes because people like growing their vegetables in there. And it's a great idea because you're so much more able to control your environment. You're picking the dirt that goes in there.
Right.
Excuse me, my horticultural teacher is just raising cane with me right now. You pick your soil that goes in there. It's not dirt, it's soil. Dirt is what you dig out of your backyard. Soil is what you put in for your vegetables. But you can put a good mix. My favorite mix, I've got a line of potting soils from a company called Fox Farm. And they have been doing heavy-duty research into how to make the best soil you can.
Okay.
So all the additives that they put in and everything just really enhance your growing. So I don't have much of a backyard. I've got a large deck,
right.
And so I plant everything in pots on my deck.
Okay.
And so I mix the, it's called Happy Frog, as I think their best-selling potting soil. I mix Happy Frog with cow manure. Because there ain't nothing like
black
the cow
cow.
Poo-poo, black cow.
Yeah, I know.
The mature manure.
That's right.
So I mix half and half that Happy Frog soil with black cow manure,
okay.
And then I plant everything in there. and that's great for your vegetables too. So you can put those large pots out and you can plant your stuff in there. Too many people overcrowd them, because if you grow a tomato plant, tomato plant's going to get 2-3 foot wide. It's going to get 4 or 5 foot tall. So you try and jam 3 or 4 tomatoes into even the largest pot I got, it's going to be too much. You're not going to get the production because it's crowding it out. So you put 1, maybe 2 tomato plants in one of those large 20-gallon pots, you're good to go. But you can plant anything in those pots. So you're better able to control the soil that you're growing in, so hopefully you don't have the nutgrass problems, because your nutgrass is all filtered out by the time it gets into that bag. Now, you can't do anything about the birds who come by and leave you a little present in your soil, because that's a lot of how nutgrass gets spread. Those birds will get in there and they'll peck because they're going after that nut. They swallow it. Waste comes out in your garden. Now all of a sudden you got a nut. Oh. And then all of a sudden your nutgrass starts growing. And once you start nutgrass, it's hard to get rid of it. And the big problem with nutgrass is that there is no chemical you can spray in a vegetable garden that will kill out your nutgrass without harming your vegetables. So you're into manual removal. You'll have to just pull that nutgrass out. That's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. So you're better able to control your soil. You're also better able to control your watering. If you're planting in the ground, a lot of times you might have a heavy soil. We're predominantly sandy in this area, but sometimes, especially like in the Grays Creek area, they have the highest clay content of any place in the county.
Wow. And
if you've got a lot of clay, you don't drain water real well. And the 3 most important things in a plant's life is drainage, drainage, and drainage.
Wow.
If you don't have good drainage, you're never going to grow well, because your roots sit in water and they just rot. And so that's another great way to prevent that from happening, is to put them in containers, because you're going to get better drainage in a container because you're above ground. Gravity's going to carry it down. You got drain holes in the bottom of your pot. It's going to let that extra water go, and then you're good to go. While we're talking about that, one of the huge misconceptions that I battle all the time is people don't understand when you're supposed to water. And I'm going to give you here horticultural lesson 101 right here.
Okay.
If you water in the morning, your plants are going to take up the water it needs. It's going to do everything it needs to do with all that water, and then all the leftover water that's in there is going to evaporate off from the heat of the day. You water at night, your plant's going to take up that water, but that extra water doesn't get evaporated. It just sits there in your container, and then the next thing you know, it's rotting your roots out. And if you have a lot of extra water sitting around for a long period of time, fungus tends to get in there and start rapidly producing and just destroying what you got. So you never want to water in the evening. You always want to water in the morning, so that once your water is taken up, the excess is evaporated off. Then you don't cause yourself a lot of other problems. So there's your horticultural 101 lesson for today. So You're better able to control your water environment too. And let's face it, all of us gardeners are getting a little older.
That's true.
It's nice to have that pot above the ground, where you don't have to get on your knees and start doing your work on your vegetables. You can get them above ground. You're automatically got an extra foot, maybe 2, so you ain't got to bend over so much. So I really like that about it. But the container gardening has just grown in popularity over the last number of years. So I've got all those pots. We've got some metal raised beds that you can configure in squares, rectangles, all kinds of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of different products out there for doing raised bed. There's whole lines of soil now that are designed just for raised bed gardening. And one of the primary reasons these soils are developed, drainage, so that you get good drainage out of your raised bed. So there's a lot of benefit to doing raised bed gardening, and people are taking advantage of it left and right. I can hardly keep those big pots in stock, because every time I turn around, there's somebody walking out with 5 or 10 of them. And so that's a great thing. But that's a trend that has grown, and for good reason it's grown over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, well, Sister Janet, I hope you're taking notes so you can get Reverend Carl out there. Have him work him.
That's right. Work him hard. He's still a young man. Needs to keep the bones moving and the joints moving. So make sure you keep plenty of work for him to do.
So now, Jeff, you guys sell Snake Away. But Janet doesn't have to worry about it. If she sees something, she calls Reverend Carl.
There you go.
There's a snake. Pick him up. Move him.
Get rid of him. Well, and some people will bristle when I say this, but you know, my favorite saying is the only good snake is a dead snake. Because while I'm sitting there leafing through, you know, my book trying to find out if it's poisonous or not, I done got bit 4 or 5 times. So if it's a snake, I just have a tendency to kill it.
But if it's a black snake, it's not.
We
went through that before, right?
But yeah, I know, and they just still freak me out. I'm not bothered by a lot of animals, but snakes, you know, just get under my skin. But yes, you got the snake away, you got sulfur, you got all kinds of things you can do to help repel the snakes and keep them out of your area.
Right.
Because a lot of times if you got a vegetable garden, they love hiding in there because you got a lot of low growth down there at the ground level, and they can get under there and get comfortable and cool through the hot summer days. And so you do need to watch out for snakes. You can put some sulfur around your raised beds, and that'll keep them out of there. Always a good idea.
Right. And I see some people, you know, if they're coming up, well, if you have a wood pile or something like that, that tend to attract particular kinds of snakes. Yes. One thing, the copperhead, which is a poison snake for this area. You know, if you do that, when I understand that will attract, because they need a place to hide.
That's right.
And that's why I say, you know, if you keep your grass cut in a manner that because they're not just going to try to go across where they can be seen. They're trying to be not seen.
I've got a large natural area in my backyard. Excuse me. And unfortunately, there's 3 or 4 backyards that all join up in this corner. And so many years ago, and if I could find them, I'd track them down, and we'd have a little prayer meeting. But they planted bamboo. Oh. And so I've got bamboo in the back corner of my yard, and I spent several hours Sunday just cutting bamboo down. I've got a huge pile that I got to take to the dump. And you talk about a ripe snake environment, you get all that bamboo in there, it provides good cover and good shade. And so I was walking very gingerly, and I was out there with my pitchfork kind of prodding around before I got into a new area. So snakes are definitely, you've got to look out for some areas where they love to hide and they love to nest.
Right. Well, look, Jeff, I know you got to get back to work, but look, thank you so much for coming in this morning, talking about some important stuff. Guys, go down and check them out. I'm telling you, look, I'll be down there.
Now, let me tell you, I got a few things that I want to push just for the meaning of the store.
Sure, go.
Number one, you know, we always carry centipede sod. So if you've got these dead areas that are coming out, we've got fresh centipede every day. We also started carrying Bermuda sod this year. Okay. So we've got some 419 Bermuda. So if you need sod to repair some of those damaged areas, if you've got an area where you're wanting to rehab, we've got sod available every day. And then the other big thing is the Boston ferns. Everybody loves those ferns. Look great on your front porch. We've got a sale going on them right now, so you can get, let's see, I'm trying to remember what the discount is. Yeah, it's $19.95 or 2 for $37.
Okay.
So if you want some ferns to beautify your front porch, I got them all over the place. Got
and they're
plenty
called Boston ferns.
Boston ferns. They need some shade. They can't take all day sun. We have a Kimberly Queen fern that takes a lot more sun. Unfortunately, I sold out of those, but I've got some more of those coming in today, as a matter of fact. So if you've got a higher sun environment where you want some nice ferns, I've got the Kimberly Queen ferns you can put out there too. And then for those people who say you get nothing for free, when you walk in the front door, we've got that fertilizer jug sitting right there by the tank. You bring in a gallon container, you get a gallon for free. I'm not going to charge you. I'm not going to chase you down for a quarter. I'm going to give you a gallon for free. Every other gallon after that's 50 cents. But what a great way to just take a gallon jug, come down, you've got all the fertilizer you need for one application for your garden, just pour it straight on there, and you're good to go.
Excellent. Well, look.
So I appreciate you bringing me in.
No, man, we appreciate you, man, giving all this valuable information. And Sister Janet, I send you an invoice for all this stuff so you can get Reverend Carl.
Janet, I'm not sending you an invoice. I'm going to be kinder to you than that, because you need to work this young man with love and care and attention. There you go. I'm going to be preaching it to you here, Carl.
Well, well, look. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you, man. Always. And
I'll see you soon. Here. Call me anytime.
Yeah, I'll see you soon. I'll be there at the place off of Russell Street. What's that address now?
230 East Russell Street. If you look out my front door, you're looking at that big parking lot behind the courthouse.
Okay. All right. Appreciate you guys. Take care now.
Thank you.
All right.